Sir, you in the straw hat. In the straw hat. Please. Oh, this is. I just don't understand it, sir. You are in the courthouse. And
Yes,
you have come here.
I've already been convicted, ma'am. I'm sorry. You don't need to convict me again.
But we do need to dress you properly. It doesn't matter if you're convicted. You still have to dress properly. And of course you can start, sir, by wearing.
I'm already going to wear a necktie of some.
Then this will give you great practice. And sir, you must take your hat off in the courthouse. After all, you all know that.
Well, there's ladies present over here.
Sir, maybe I should tie this a little tighter.
No.
Now this is a very appropriate tie that you can be wearing. And doesn't that make a difference? Doesn't he appear just proper? No, the hat must come on. I'm sorry. You
Well,
must
it's
not.
awfully bright in here, ma'am.
Well, you can certainly tell that he's just here from the ranch, can't you? Or the orchard. Would you please put the waistcoat on?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
it's most important that you put the waistcoat on. I am going to take the hat, fix the waistcoat the way that you know that it should be. Now, all of us know this, that the waistcoat can be unbuttoned all the way down except for the neck. That must remain closed. Don't ask me why, but that's such as this.
Did I not put it on?
I see we're going to have a very serious problem here.
Oh,
Just put the sack coat on, sir. This is called a sack coat. And this,
I've never seen it before.
here it is, 1863. You would think that he would know by now how he is supposed to dress, what he's supposed to look like, and of course this sack coat came from a sack. Yes, and if you'll notice, it's just, excuse me, just straight. Excuse me, I have to help you.
I understand.
And then of
I'm not the
course,
one that needs help.
I think your top hat does. Oh, now isn't that more appropriate for you are now? Is he a gentleman now?
Yes.
Oh, you have been voted gentleman. Yes. Oh my. Sometimes these gentlemen are so difficult, but I know, ladies, that you will. And even your drawers are very short. Oh. No wonder they asked me to come. Now, ladies, oh gentlemen, you need to avert your eyes. You shouldn't be looking at such things. But I am going to assist the ladies now in the finer things. And ladies, we mustn't forget the most important part of all, the corset. Now the corset, of course, as you know, is very, very important. because it makes our figures look like an hourglass. Now, I have heard it said that the corset is important for the waist. No, it's not the waist that it affects or that it helps. It is this part right here. It gives you a nice, smooth, don't you think? A nice, smooth look, and it helps the, what do they call this, the upper stomach? The part of the ribs, yes, up here. And now, so the corset, and of course you know that the lacing goes in back. There have been many, many times that we've had to hang on to the bedposts as they were pulling them tight. That's too tight. Now you shouldn't wear your corset that tight. And I'm just going to slip this on. This corset needs just a little adjusting on, I'm just going to hook those two on the bust. It's most essential that the corset comes up to the middle of the bust. And so then the bust rests in the corset. And then you tighten the corset back here so that it will give you that nice shape that you are in need of. Now, of course, after that, aren't you pleased that we now are wearing drawers that are a little shorter? All the way through the early 1800s to the 30s and even into the 40s. They were clear down on our ankles, but as you recall, we didn't even wear anything prior to that, and not many of us wore them even then. We just didn't. And so we now have the drawers because, and you know what this is for, the importance of that. The purpose that we are wearing drawers is that our skirts started to expand. And as they expanded, you could kind of see up the skirt. And especially for those who weren't wearing all of the proper undergarments, you could. And so it's most essential, especially to cover the legs. Now, as you remember, when Queen Victoria came to the throne in 37, she declared at that time, it is now time to return to morality and virtue. Yes, indeed. Well, now, I'm just going to tie this around because the legs on this particular form is, it's only one leg. Now, so you have the drawers, and then after the drawers, you need some petticoats. Now, it's most important, and again, gentlemen, avert your eyes. I am going to display. Now, as you can see, you must wear your drawers. And now, it's your choice if you want to tuck everything inside the drawers or if you want to leave them out. Nobody's going to know, nobody cares. So it's up to you. So you have your drawers on first, and then, of course, your chemise. Now, I didn't talk about the importance of the chemise. The chemise, oh my goodness, ladies. If you don't wear a chemise, the body liquid that exerts from everywhere. The chemise is most important for absorbing. And that is why you wear it. You change your chemise every single day. And so you need a minimum of 7 because you know you wash on Mondays. And so you need a minimum of 7 chemises. Now, if you're well-to-do, you'll have many more than that. But for some, 7 is just fine. So you will use an under the hoop petticoat. Now this will go on, I'm going to have to do it like this, in order to tie it around. This will go under the hoop, and I will show you why in just a minute. I am going to borrow this very, very strange kind of chair. I don't quite understand it, but I'm going to come over here and I want to demonstrate something. If you are not wearing all of the proper undergarments, and if you sit down inappropriately, as some ladies do, by lifting their hoop skirts. Now, it looks fine to me in the front, but in the back, not so fine. So you must wear an under the hoop petticoat so they cannot see up under. Now, after that, of course, is going to be the hoop. Aren't we pleased that we have the hoop? The hoop is oh my goodness, for those of you who came on the trail, if you wore all of the petticoats before we had the hoops, 10, 12 petticoats in order to make our skirts stand out, oh, it just made it a completely arduous journey. Very, very difficult. So the hoop has, as I've heard them say, has lightened the load. All right, the hoop then will go on here, over, we're not done yet. Then we need an over the hoop petticoat. As you see that I have an over the hoop, the under the hoop, the chemise, the drawers, the corset, and that is your minimum amount of clothing that you should be wearing. And I will slip this on. And once you have all of your undergarments on, you are now ready to get dressed. And with that, I'm going to step out of 1863 so that I can talk. And by the way, sir, we're going to, yeah, you, that's true. We're going to have words.
Again?
That, by the way, is my husband. Now, what I'm going to do from now on, I don't know, should I take questions during or wait until after? What would you rather?
We were wondering about washing all this good stuff.
On that
We
is.
had to iron it, flat iron everything, we did everything, ironing,
Well, yes.
the skirts. the-
Tuesday,
Mhm.
then Wednesday, what did we do Wednesday? Go shopping or something? I can't remember. All right, what I want to do is, I'm gonna go through the decades. Just, yes,
Even if you're pregnant, you can wear all that? Even if you're pregnant? Oh, yeah, That's too much.
yes.
Way too much.
I'm sorry, that ain't gonna get you out of it. Now, let's first dress. Yes.
What if you were homestead and having to do chores?
Again, you wore your corset, you wore your chemise, you wore your drawers, you wore your petticoat, at least one petticoat. The only thing you didn't wear at the time was the hoop. You would take the hoop off. Okay, I'm gonna go on because when we get in, we'll be getting into more information on that in just a few minutes. Now, I'm going to start actually in the 1830s so that you can see kind of the transition. So I'm going to go very quickly through these. As you can see, there's a lot here, but it's Carl's fault. Because he wrote this, they're going to have many garments and they're going to be of all the decades and it's going to be, so blame him. This is about 1837, 38, and the reason I know that is because the sleeve tells the story in a lot of these garments. The sleeve is big on the bottom. Prior to that, if you've seen Pride and Prejudice and Sensibility, if you're familiar with those movies, and by the way, they did do a wonderful job in costuming. The British are just great. But 1830, by the early 1830s, there was a huge, big upper sleeve. And that, it just got bigger and bigger from about 1810. It just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you had these ginormous sleeves. 36, they collapsed. They went away. And then the bottom part of the sleeve started to bulge a little bit. Now, always, you had the opportunity for a great deal of cleavage to be exposed. And the necklines on these, again, if you've watched these movies, these programs, you've noticed that. The corset squeezes and pushes. And so that's exactly what is happening here. It's the high waist, low neck, things exposed, but it's 36. It's getting right at the very beginning of Queen Victoria, and this is who changed the world at this time. Now, when she declared that it's time to return to morality and virtue, we got it. We got covered up. The waist suddenly dropped down here. Now this is about 41, 42. And the neckline came clear up to here, and then you had collars that came up even higher. We were not going to show anything. And very long, straight, tight sleeves. The skirt was the only thing that was loose and comfortable. Everything else was tight, straight and tight. Now this particular bodice is called a fan front. This became very, very popular. A lot of these styles of clothes had gathers that came here. And what happened is they just dipped down and became this another band from that expanded out like that. Now that's the 40s. And the other thing that happened with the 40s was incredible depression, worldwide depression, here, everywhere. And one of the problems with that is that we became very, very stagnant. We just didn't do anything. All of a sudden, we started having religious tent meetings and revivals, and in Kentucky, all of the revivals that were going on, because the whole idea was that we were not good here on earth. We were not good people. We are bad people. And so everything that we do, we had to do to try to get to heaven. That was the whole object. And so the 40s was a very, very strict, very religious decade, 1840s. Now, it was very interesting because Prince Albert, Victoria's husband, if you have heard anything about him, he wanted to do something. He was very, very frustrated that he couldn't do. He was very creative. He was very energetic, very smart man. But being the prince, the husband of, he wasn't able to do anything until Victoria finally let him do what became the exposition, the crystal glass exposition in England in 1851. And he invited builders, developers, engineers, artists, creative people to come and display their wares. And so because of that, we started thinking again. We started creating and doing things. And one of the things that showed up was in the textiles. This was very, very important. Now this particular dress, 1853, this is a copied dress. If you've ever looked at McCall's Simplicity Butterick Patterns, you will see this pattern. It's called a pioneer dress. And that is, we've got the fan front, right? But it's cut off here at the shoulder line. And this was a very comfortable dress. Now you notice that, that it is also very sheer, lightweight. So yes, they did have cool clothes on the trail. They had cool clothes here. We're not going to wear heavy silks and heavy wools all the time, but they're still warm. Now, one other thing that's kind of interesting with this particular dress. You see the purple, right? What color do you see here? Kind of a brown. What happened was, this was called Perkins Purple, and they loved it. People loved it, but it was trenchant. It just left. It would disappear and become brown. Have you seen multitudes of brown dresses during the 1850s and 60s? Guess what, folks? The vast majority were not brown. They were purple. And yes, and when you start getting on the inside, and it's not the sun that fades it, it just does. It just goes away. And so this is one of those situations. Now, by the courthouse time, what you're wearing. The hoop actually wasn't invented until 1856. We were wearing petticoats all that time, and we kept loading up the petticoats. We wore as many as 10 to 12 petticoats. Now, you hold up 10, 12 petticoats, and it's about 10 pounds. Tie 2 5-pound bags of sugar around your waist and wear them around all day and see what it feels like. They were backbreaking. They seriously were. And so it was just one of those things that was waiting to be invented. The very first one was actually like a bird cage. It came together, clapped together in the middle, and it wasn't flexible. It was this steel cage that you kind of tried to walk around in. A little difficult. But 56, the hoop exploded. Absolutely exploded. And every lady had to have a hoop. And especially hanging on the side of your wagon. You gotta have your hoop on, you know, the pans and the hoop on the side of the wagons. Also, now, the skirt got bigger, became very full. That's actually a slit for a pocket on the inside. And that's how they handled the pockets. They weren't necessarily in the dress, but they were in the lining underneath. And so there was just a slit in the dress. The sleeves became big, called pagoda sleeves. During the 50s, everything became big and more. The textiles, the colors, the amount. And guess what got left behind? It was called religion. We didn't need that anymore now that we have big dresses and more money and stuff. And so we're not going to worry too much about the religious aspect of things anymore. But as I said, this is about 1858. And it's very fitted.
What?
No, they did not have two pieces. So if you wear period clothes with a skirt and blouse, no, sorry. But again, this was the look of the late 50s. This also went into the 60s. And of course, that was our Civil War time. And we had that infamous hoop. You know, the other place that the gentleman couldn't stand the hoop was on the trail. I don't know if you've ever heard of the hoop trees, Sweetwater River. By the time they got there, what is that, Wyoming? They couldn't cross the river until they hung their hoops up on the trees and leave them there forever. So the poor women lost their hoops, and it wasn't until they got to the Dalles that they got another one. So they were able to get more hoops. In the 60s, now this is about 63, and in the 60s, the idea was to broaden the look of the shoulders. Usually there was some kind of decoration that went across or emphasized the width of the shoulders. And of course today we don't want to do that. But this one does exactly the same thing. This is wool. And what is interesting is the very fine wools that they had, the wool chalets, They're beautiful, beautiful wools. They absorb the perspiration, and they are as comfortable, if not more so, than your cottons. And so the wools were very important, and they also lasted longer. So this, now, you notice that the hoop is getting a little smaller. By 64, the hoop started getting flat in front. You got it. Now, this particular one is, of course, it's sheer, but do you notice the dress is flat here in front? It doesn't have the fullness anymore that it did, so it's starting to flatten here and pull to the back. This is 65, right on 65. It still has the fullness, but the other thing about it is the waist is also starting to rise. Now, well, it's interesting because yes and no. Comment was the people were very, very tiny. And like I said, yes and no. This one, the waist measures 30 inches on this. So I'm going to bring it over here kind of sideways. And they're really trying to accentuate the derriere. Yes, yes. I affectionately call these butt bows. And they just became more and more, and as the decade went on, they went lower and lower. I don't know why, but anyway, they got way down here. And so this is before all of that skirt came up. This is about 72. And this is one of the typical looks. I'm going to leave it here, turn it around.
So is this a one-piece dress or?
No, this, now we are doing two. This is a bodice over the skirt. Isn't that interesting how that is constructed?
Are they still hand sewing at this point? or
Oh,
do you have the
no,
sewing machine?
you get me on the sewing machine. It's your fault.
Okay, that's all right, I'm all for
The
it.
sewing machine was patented by Elias Howe in 1846. Back in 46. It became, or Singer stepped on his patent and by 52, and Howe sued Singer, but Singer was the marketing genius. He was the one that said, buy now, pay later. He started the buy now, pay later. But Howe sued and won, and Singer had to pay Howe through the 1860s because he did seriously step on the patent. And what that particular stitch was the lock stitch. That's what we know as the thread goes through, the other one comes down around and catches the lower thread. And so that was early, by 1852, there were over 150,000 machines in private homes. Does not count manufacturing. And then of course by the Civil War time, by 1860s, it exploded because of the uniforms that they were making. 70s. Now, this particular 70 is starting to look like the 80s because it's going all the way down, straight down, and this is a tunic. coming down, and it's starting, it's starting to curve, you know. And so this is about 77, 78 in there.
What material is that?
This one is linen.
Linen.
Yeah, it is linen.
So were people allowed to sit down on their buses and clothes?
Well, they had to. They had to. That was the only way. One of the things that furniture became very different by this time, and they had seats that were very deep. And the depth was to absorb all of that fabric that was back there. And so that was very important. Now, the end of their courthouse saw something like this. Now, and I wasn't able to get this pooched up, but look at this skirt. It's ridiculous. It's pleated. It's just everything. And the ribbons and now the other thing that you notice is the look. And I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about drawers, the women started adapting the men's look very early in the 1800s. And that's when they started with the long drawers. And here were the men's drawers.
No, they had buttons, but the women didn't have buttons for quite a few years, did
Correct, correct. And these were called pantalettes. Pantalettes, not pantaloons. Pantaloons belonged on little children. And they showed down underneath at the bottom of their dresses. So these were pantalettes, and they were just lace and trims at the bottom of the men's drawers. By the way, drawers came from to draw on. To draw on. So your pantalettes, and then it went into the shorter drawers. And by the time we got to the 80s, women were taking all sorts of things that they could that were men's. Since they really couldn't have the rights that they were after, that they wanted, they started taking a lot of their looks. And one of it is this waistcoat appearance. Now this is about 1883. 83.
It looks like they took almost every fashion idea and incorporated within one. With the ribbons, with
You notice that?
puffy, the handles.
Are we seeing 1970s re-emerge? Lived there, been there, done that, don't need to do it again. But they reinvent themselves, and you will find, oh, that looks like this date, or that looks like that date. And so, yes, very much so. And just one other thing, I didn't bring any, but by the 1890s, the Sherlock Holmes type, the sleeves were out here. Does that sound familiar from way back? So, yeah, it's just reinvented. Now, this particular dress, this was called a housemaid dress, M-A-I-D, housemaid. We eventually started calling them a house dress. And so you don't have to run around the field in these. You wear these for special dinners or for church or for something else like that. But you wear your housemaid dress when you are at home, if you think about Little House on the Prairie, and Carolyn, you know, she well-dressed, but very simple, very simple. And so, the housemaid dress is still high, it's still tight, like the 80s. It has the straight sleeves. She still wore the corset and the petticoat, but that's about all. Now, this question was asked a little bit earlier. Look familiar? That's, they wore the same dress. They just
Look at that.
bumped it up. That's all they did.
And the corset like way up the heel and.
Now, the corsets for maternity had laces right here.
Oh.
So, this one down at the bottom would have slits in it with laces down there, so that it would expand with it. But yes, they still wore the corset. In fact, it is said that the corset, the women wore the corsets, and as they got older, they had to wear them because their back and spine had not developed to the point, and so they had even sleeping corsets that they wore. So yeah, they wore the corsets. This came unhooked, but that's, it's exactly the same dress. It is just that it comes up higher, it's fuller, and that's basically the only difference. In the images or photographs of this time period, very often you will see women standing like this. Guess what? But she's still wearing the dress that you saw months before, only it's a little different now. This one on the inside, all of the darts are taken out. And so she expanded this herself and raised the waist. And as we know, there is birth, and unfortunately, there's death. And for the women, this was essential that she knew all of the proper things that she had to do when someone died, especially her husband. If her husband passed, she was supposed to mourn for 2 years and 1 day. She could do it longer, but not shorter. And the 1 day, the purpose of that is that you don't stop mourning on the day of the passing. And so 2 years and 1 day. Now, that's for a spouse. The children, 6 months. But one of the interesting things is that women were expected, if you were your husband's second wife, and his first wife's parents passed, you were expected to mourn for them also. So by the 70s and 80s, why wear anything but black? Now, this particular dress is actually 1865. It is not a mourning dress. It has pretty trim on it. The black is not a very dull, it should be very dull. What gives it away is this mourning crepe that is sewn around the neck. Now, wish I had my white gloves out. This is crepe. Now, when they talked about Lincoln and after he was assassinated, the crepe industry was wiped out because everyone across the country bought out crepe and you draped the crepe around your house, you draped it over your mirrors because they were superstitious about that. Now, the problem with crepe, and they would wear it over, you notice what's on the bottom? Crepe. They would wear this over the bonnet. But the problem, as I started to say, was that the crepe was made with arsenic, lead, and formaldehyde. And they said more widows died in mourning than any other time. In fact, Godey's Lady's Book, 1855, wrote something to this effect. Ladies, wear the crepe for 15 minutes only. This is my words. It could be hazardous to your health. And that's exactly what it was. And so the crepe is very, very thick. It is literally creped. And that's what caused it to be creped, were these chemicals that were put in. It's made out of wool thread. And so the other thing about crepe was that they being superstitious again, the rule was that you burn the crepe. I think this was like a Hallmark thing. The crepe industry put this one out. You burn your crepe when you are out in mourning. If you don't do that, you will be the cause of the next person to die. And you didn't want to do that, so you burned the crepe. And so when somebody else passed, you had to go buy more crepe. Now, they had crepe everything. Unfortunately, the handle broke off of this. Crepe on their umbrellas. Even the handle has been creped. One of the important things in identifying, you'll notice that I have white collars on all of these, which is what they wore, except if they were in mourning. And this is the only way in images that you can tell. You'll see a black collar instead of a white. And so crepe collars also to wear. Crepe jewelry, mourning jewelry and everything. Mourning was a huge, huge industry. And when Queen Victoria died in 1901, the crepe industry went broke because King Edward, now her son, basically declared it is now time to throw out the statues and party hard. And that's what he did. No more mourning. Enough of this. Now, just real quickly, the last are the bonnets. If you are in the courthouse, if you are in church, if you go marketing, whatever, you go out of the house, you wear your bonnet. Now, these are dress bonnets. These are not cotton work bonnets. You really don't find originals of those. Most of the bonnets that we see have been kind of adapted to what we think that they were. But the bonnets, these bonnets, this is 1840s. Remember I said about the 40s that you cover everything up, including your face. So this was like blinders. 1840s bonnet. Big, open. 1850s bonnet. We're now expanding. We're getting big and broad. 1860s. We're starting to go up and look ridiculous. 1870s, look familiar? Seen those before. And then the 80s, of course, is on the very back of the head, and you had to pin it all over the place in order to keep it on. But that is just a real quick overview of what the clothes were. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
I think most of you women can remember when we wore layers and layers and layers of petticoats in the 50s.
And
Under 5-yard skirts.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we had to starch them and then they scratch our legs.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. The 50s, you start comparing the 50s to 1850s, and it's like, I think I've been here before.
And the black
And going through those,
The black stockings,
yeah, and
yeah.
going through those, trying to go through the school doors with those hoops in your skirts. Sometimes they came out and they popped out.
It shouldn't be.
Try wearing them today. Yes, question.
Are these originals or reproductions?
Oh, they are all originals. Everything here is original. All of the undergarments are original. My dress is reproduction, I made it, but everything else actually is original that I happen to be wearing. It's big no-no on wearing original dresses. Big no-no. So please don't ask to dress up for a fashion show in the tea, because that doesn't work. That was the 1960s and 70s that people did that, but
Is it the oil from your hands, your skin?
it's the stretch, it's the, yeah, because so many of these garments, when you start looking very closely at them, they're shattering.
Yeah.
They literally are shattering. And that's because of the lead that was put in them. I don't know if you can see the shoulder on that dress. It just disappears, just like the color. And the threads break apart and they're really no good. So, yeah, and there's nothing you can do about it. So they're entrusted to us, just like the building, anything that is historic. It's entrusted to us to take care of, preserve, and keep as long as possible.
Marge, your jewelry.
Originals,
Could you explain?
except for that.
Could you?
This is a watch chain. You could wear them in a little pocket here, or you had a watch chain, just like the men's would, if you had a buttonhole, could put it in here, but you always put it in a little watch pocket, which is crocheted. And then this slides. Now, they never wore them here, because that emphasizes you know what, and we mustn't do that. The brooches were always at the throat, never here. So that's just where they are. The garnet brooch and earrings, and since you asked, it's your fault. This particular ring is very much like Queen Victoria's favorite ring. It was her betrothal ring from, yeah, no kidding, from Prince Albert. It was a snake. A snake. I can't get this off. No. Geez. I wanted to show it. I was, okay, I'll send it on. I want this back, folks. Hers was ruby eyes and a diamond tongue. These are sapphire. Now, the reason for the snake, and it's a little hard to understand, when I first got into this, I really started with jewelry, Victorian jewelry, because the jewelry tells the story of the woman. The woman couldn't express herself, so she did through her jewelry because it was so symbolic. Well, this one, the serpent, is represents fidelity and eternity. Thank you, Pearl. But when we start looking at the different uses of a snake, one is the rope, and all of these different functions of this twisty turny, I'll pass it around, legend, is that the serpent holds on tight and doesn't let go. And so that's why eternity, fidelity, it represents the very special things.
Oh, the servant on the staff from the children of Israel, the medical profession.
The medical profession, the Navy, absolutely. And the medical, we were in Italy last week. And one of the things that we noticed is their use of symbolism so much. And one is the snake, the rope. And it was because the medical, eternity and health.
You didn't say anything about gloves?
About what?
Gloves?
Gloves were quite essential, and mine are over there that I just didn't take time to get out. They, just like the bonnet, you never went out of the house without your bonnet. You never went out without your gloves. So your gloves were very important. However, there are many, many rules that break this, or things that break it. If you're out working, if you're going to run to the grocery store or something, you don't necessarily put your gloves on. If you're dressed, gloves on. Anything else? And I'm sorry that I'm taking so long.
The bad guy over here, what are his pants made out of?
Wool. The bad guy right there that just
Not
stood
that
up?
guy.
Yes.
The gentleman bad guy.
No, just the bad guy. He really challenged me on that one. I go, brother. One of the questions.
Before they used the sewing machine, was there any a consistent kind of stitch
Yes.
that they used?
Yes.
I always thought the garter stitch was, but that wasn't it.
No. For those who know stitching, back stitch. It loops around and you go halfway back to the stitch that you had just done, and you come out halfway out, and then you loop again. And so what is happening is that the bottom stitch, you end up with the bottom layer of stitches. If we use just the running stitch, you have nothing on the bottom or on the top, in between. And so the back stitch is the essential stitch. They made such tiny back stitches. You have to seriously examine your garments to see if they were handmade or machine made. Tiny. Anything else? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, well, that's why we have the...
Thank you.